Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Stroke Empowerment Sessions. My name is Letitia Living, and I'm joined today by a special guest, Jaleesa. Hello, Jaleesa. How are you?
Hi, I'm well. How are you?
I'm well also. And tell everyone where you're coming in from today.
I'm coming in from this area, and I'm coming in from Maryland, right outside of DC, in this little town called District Heights.
Ah, nice. And we were just chatting. It's Thursday for Jaleesa and Friday for me.
It's, uh, exactly 7:05 p.m. here Thursday.
Mhm. So tell everybody before we get into the stroke and what life looks like for you after. Tell us a little bit about who you were prior to your stroke.
I was a second year assistant principal at an elementary school, and I worked my butt off at my job, from being an educator, special educator, to a dean of students, to an assistant principal. And I loved my job. I spent way too much time at work though. It was a very stressful job. Um, but the children, I loved the students all the time. And my coworkers, they became my family. So it felt, even though I was stressed, I felt like, okay, I can get through this. But it was not an ideal work situation.
So you loved it, but it was a little bit stressful at the same time.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then I had like friendships, and we would do things all the time. I would always be with my friends. Not always. I would be with my friends when I wasn't working. Um, but I had a regular social life, like nothing special, but I was very active as far as being with my friends.
Yeah. And um, so life was cruising along for you. You loved your job, even though it was a bit challenging or whatever, it was fulfilling. And then what happened? How did we get to where we are now?
Well, really, there was like a snowball. It was like a snowball effect. One day, I got into a car accident. Somebody hit me from behind, and the ambulance had to come on scene. I was fine, but they came on scene and they took me to the hospital. And as they're taking my blood pressure, they keep telling me your blood pressure is really high. Are you sure you're okay? And I'm like, yeah. They said, okay, you're probably just stressed from the accident. But because of the accident, I had to go to rehab. And every time I was in rehab, they had to do my blood pressure. If it was too high, I wouldn't be able to work out. And every time they took my blood pressure, they would say it's way too high. And the nurse actually said to me, you need to get this under control, because if you don't, you can have a stroke. I didn't think anything of it, but I was just like, so in my mind, I'm now looking up on Google all of this information about what is it like, how do you know you're having a stroke, um, which I actually think saved my life a little bit. And then um, I remember I left for rehab one day, and I went to go talk to my parents to ask them just about our blood pressure in our family. And my dad said, yeah, I have high blood pressure. Um, and then I woke up for work one day. I felt tired. And I'm sorry, the day before, my friend and I went to a painting class, and I had a terrible headache. I mean, it was awful, but I was like, I still want to go. So I went to the store and I bought some ibuprofen, and I took like six ibuprofen because two or three were not working, and nothing helped. The next morning I woke up and I didn't feel great, but I didn't feel terrible. So I went to work because I cannot afford, I need to go to work. And I remember walking into my office and keeping the lights turned off, because I feel overwhelmed by all the stimulants around me. And I was sitting at my computer getting ready to join a virtual meeting. My principal walks in, and he sits in the corner of my office. and he's about to start talking. And I just remember thinking, I don't have time for this meeting. Like I have so many other things to do because we were preparing for teachers to come back into the building.
Mhm.
And he left out for a second. And it's like the moment he left out, I felt this big pop is the best way that I can describe it. It was a big pop. And I feel like I could hear it and feel it. And from there, the pain just shot all around my neck, down my back. And I text my friend, I called my friend, my really close friend who works for me. And she's like, I'm in a meeting. I said, I understand that, but I need you to come to my office right now. Because I knew something wasn't right. Because
Mhm.
if I never felt that before. And again, I had been looking up the stroke information. So in my mind, that's what this was, right?
Mhm.
So, but I didn't know what's going on. So she comes in my office and she gets on the phone and she calls paramedics. When the paramedics came, they said to me, "Are you stressed?" I said, "Well, I have a stressful job." And they
Mhm.
said, "Well, you probably just need to go to therapy." I said, I don't think that's what it is, but okay. And then my dad came to get me because my principal knew something wasn't right. So they made sure they called my father. He came to my job to pick me up. And the entire time I just keep saying, I don't want to go, I just want to go lay down. So all this time has passed between the moment of the pop that I felt and heard to leaving work to now going with my dad to my parents' house. Then we get there and I start arguing with my mom because I'm like, give me the COVID test so I can get back to work tomorrow. And she's like, I'm no. And so then there's this unnecessary argument, but she finally just does it because she's like, you don't need to fight about this. So we do the COVID test. The last thing I remember is my dad saying, I'm going to go drop the COVID test off at the uh, post office so we can give it to the
So
so we can
just,
send it.
I'm just going to not mean to interrupt, but just for everybody listening, um, this was in 2021.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, go.
Um, from that point, from him leaving, telling me he's leaving, I don't remember a thing. I woke up. I remember waking up and I was in the hospital, but I woke up to, I remember my cousin was standing he was the first person I saw when I woke up and like actually understood that I was awake. Um, and then I had to stay in rehab. I stayed in the hospital for about a month and then rehab for like 3 months.
So back at your parents' house, um, uh, what happened to get you to hospital?
So at the point of me, the moment that I went to the hospital, I was completely unconscious.
Mhm.
But from what my parents tell me, my dad said he said my eyes were like half open, half closed, and my skin was really clammy, um, and my skin was really cool. So he just said he called paramedics because he knew something didn't feel right to him. Um, they get me to the local emergency room, which is very small. The doctors ran a scan and found out that I had the rupture, and they said she has a lot of bleeding on the brain. She has to go to a hospital that can manage what is happening with her. So apparently they helivac me from the little small hospital to one of our bigger hospitals in DC.
So you've had an aneurysm rupture and you've got to
Mhm.
hospital and then transferred to a different hospital.
Yes.
And how severe was that bleeding? Did they know how long you were bleeding for before they found it?
No, if they did, that was never told to me. Every time when I talked to my neurologist, he showed me scans and he left me. He says, he showed my rupture happened. It was a huge rupture in the middle of my head. So both sides of my body were affected. Um, I don't know how long it was that way, but what I do know is the bleeding, the rupture happened in the middle and it affected both sides of my body. Um, and the rupture happened in the shape of a really big butterfly, which is interesting. But other than that, I don't know like the details of what happened during that time between the rupture and me getting to my parents' house, or even the local emergency room or the hospital. Yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah. And so, sorry, how long did you spend in hospital and rehab? Did you need to learn how to walk? How did this impact you being affected on both sides?
I so when I was first in the hospital, well, when I was in the hospital side of the hospital, I could not talk, move, anything. And then when I got to, I couldn't hold my head up, like nothing. And then when I got to, they transferred me to the rehab side of things, and I couldn't talk, sit up in a chair. They used to have to use the ceiling lift to get me out of the bed to put me in the wheelchair. And in the wheelchair, I couldn't sit up. Um, I had to relearn how to talk. I had to relearn how to walk, feed myself. I had to learn how to just do basic everyday things, using the restroom, walking in a kitchen, doing things in the kitchen, um, writing, anything like comprehension wise. I had to go through speech therapy because I could not understand. I couldn't get through any task because it just felt daunting and like I just couldn't do it. So I had to learn how to live all over again in every way. Just thinking about it just gives me chills because I just cannot believe I went through that. Like it feels like a movie. For that to happen to someone, it just felt crazy.
Yeah, it happened so suddenly without warning. Just 1 minute
Yes.
we're living life as normal, and then the next, boom, stroke
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah.
And yeah. Um, so when you said that you had to relearn pretty much everything, um, was life after stroke in the hospital for you? Was that just therapy all day, every day?
All day, every day. Physical therapy, occupational therapy, and speech therapy all day, every day. Um, that was it. I remember just feeling like I'm never going to learn how to do this again. It felt, I know I keep saying it, but it just felt crazy. Even just thinking about it, I felt defeated, like I would never be able to live life again.
And so, how long did it take you to be able to do some of these things? How long before you could speak again? How long before you could move your arms and hands and walk?
Um, okay, I'm gonna give rough estimates.
Mhm.
I could hold my I used to have to wear a helmet in the rehab facility. And my I remember I'm rumbling. Okay. So this is the side of my rupture. Well, this is where they took the skull
Did
piece
you have a
out.
craniectomy?
Yeah, they took that piece out, and
Mhm.
so I had to wear a helmet every time. Every time I got out of the bed, even in the bed, they were like, put the helmet on. So I had the helmet on, um, and I would do physical therapy every day, um, all of the therapies every day. Um, I'm sorry, Brian. What was the question? I'm so sorry. I'm
It's
sorry.
okay. I was just actually engaged in your story. So I was just wondering how, like, just a rough timeline of how long until you could walk, how long until you could speak.
Okay, I feel like my I don't know the exact times, but I from talking with my doctors, I go see one of my I have standing appointments with one of my doctors, and she always tells the stories about how she came into my room and I just was like looking into space. And then she went home, and then the next week she got to work, and she said she walked into my room and she said I just said hey,
Mm.
and um she said, it wasn't like a fast process, but ever since then, and going to speech therapy, I was able to relearn how to use my voice again. Um, and but it took some time. Sitting up in the chair took a lot of time too. I used to argue with my therapist because every time we would leave like rehab, I mean like the physical rehab, they would tell me to sit in my wheelchair in the room and to help me with the core and sitting up and holding my head up. And I would cry and be like, I just want to go to bed. Just let me get in bed. And so that took some time. Then I went from them pushing me in the wheelchair to them teaching me how to push myself, which I thought, oh, this is going to be easy. This is going to be fun. Push myself. No, it did not feel easy or fun to me. Um, in rehab, I mean, in physical therapy, I would keep learning how to walk with a cane, but I wasn't good at it, and my brain could not connect to my legs, so there was like no movement happening. I eventually was able to use the walker, but not like an everyday thing. It was like I didn't start using the walker consistently until I left rehab and was staying with my parents.
Mhm.
And then I feel like my speech came along fairly quickly. There were moments my arm, I couldn't, this arm felt like it was, and it still feels like this now, like floating in space. Like I see it and I know it's here, but it doesn't feel like it's here. My neurologist went on to describe that as he said your brain can't recognize where your body is, where the right side of your body
Is
is.
that neglect?
I'm not sure.
Yeah. Okay.
Um, so I did a bunch of, I was in there for what, 3 months, 2.5, 3 months. And I went from not being able to talk, hold my head up, not being able to use my arms in any capacity to being able to push myself in a wheelchair, which was a big deal. Um, talk, sit up in a chair, feed myself because I couldn't feed myself. The one thing I could not do when I left rehab, or one of the things I could not do when I left rehab, was take myself to a regular bathroom. I had to use a bedside commode for a very long time because going into the bathroom, I could not maneuver getting from the wheelchair to the toilet. I didn't know that was a process I had to learn. So in rehab, I feel like I came a very long way. I learned a lot in rehab, which felt crazy because I'm like, oh, I don't, I'm learning this. I should know how to do this. It was
Mhm.
not. It took a while for my brain to connect with. Girl, you lost all your process. You don't know how to do it anymore. So I had to like give myself grace and just learn the things.
And I love that you just said that you had to give yourself some grace because it is quite a challenging experience to have to relearn to do the things that you could do, especially as an adult and in having all that independence and having that loss.
Yeah.
And so, for everybody listening, it's 2023 now. So, Jaleesa has just gone on 2 years post stroke. So, her recovery has just been absolutely tremendous. And from that, you've started something amazing. I want to share it, but I'm going to leave it to you to share what you're doing.
I started a blog called the Ruptured Sunflower, and it is. I created the blog because I really wanted. I remember sitting in the hospital like, what the curse word is going
Mhm,
on? There's no one that looks like me. There's no one my age in here. This feels isolating. It feels lonely, and
mhm,
even getting out of the hospital, your friends, your family, they all are around you because they support you and they love you. But there's this piece of you that's like, but you don't understand anything. And I don't even know how to explain to you how awful I feel, right? Like I don't know how to get this out. Um, and so I remember thinking, I thought about it and said, I want to be able to be that person who shows someone that you can go through this situation or a situation similar to this and you can make it through. And it has its highs and its lows. And so I wanted to show all of it, the highs, the lows, the in-betweens, because to me, healing is not it's not like a straight shot, like it's not linear. Like it's a lot of ebbs and flows and it's hard. And then the fact that I went through like depression and anxiety and other diagnoses, I knew that people needed um needed a friend as they went through this. And for people who don't have anyone, I wanted that my blog to be that place where they could go and just see that they're not alone. That yes, I struggle to use the bathroom, I struggle to put on my shoes, all the things. Come here, you find that there.
I love so much that you've done that, that you've got this space. And you're so right in saying that healing is not one linear straight lines. It's up and down, it ebbs and flows, there's good days and there's hard days. And you embrace all of that. And that realness is what makes you so easy to connect with. And when we are experiencing those vulnerable moments, that we can connect with you and we can feel what you're going through and feel connected and relatable to that. And I love your blog, and you are so open and vulnerable on that. So for everyone, again, that's called the Ruptured Sunflower, and I'll put the links in the chat text so that you can connect with Jaleesa, read her blogs, and watch how her remarkable recovery journey, which is still ongoing.
Yes, yes, it is.
So, is there anything that you would like to add or share, or anything else that you would like to chat with us about? Any words of wisdom for anybody else going on this journey?
Oh, I would say the biggest thing that I have learned and I'm still learning is to embrace the new. You have to close the door to what you thought life was going to be and accept where you are in this moment and accept and let bring in all the beautiful things that comes with now. That old life that you were creating is gone. As sad as that is to say or even to hear for me sometimes still, I have to accept that so that I can be okay now. And I feel like I have done so much work around accepting what is. And it has given me so much light and so much lightness that feels like I can still do life.
Absolutely. I love that. I love that message.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming on today and sharing your stroke experiences with us. I know that your experiences are going to help so many others. And I look forward to continue reading your blog, and we'll put all of the details down below so that everyone can connect with you and keep updated with what you're doing also.
Okay.
All right.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.